Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the December 4th, 2007 meeting of the Glendale Housing Authority, being called to order at 3:16 p.m. We have a roll call.
It's not quite 3:16 according to the clock.
3:11. Thank you, Mr. City Clerk, for catching that.
Certainly. Authority members, Raymond.
Here.
Mincy.
Here.
Dorian.
Here.
Razian.
Here.
Quintero.
Here.
Yusefian. Chairman Weaver.
Here, may we have your report?
The agenda for the December 4th, 2007 regular meeting of the Glendale Housing Authority was posted on Thursday, November 29th, 2007, on the bulletin board outside City Hall.
Thank you. What is next, please?
Approval of minutes.
So moved.
Second.
And there's no abstentions in here? Okay, the minutes will stand approved as submitted. What is next, please?
Next is oral communication. Discussion is limited to items not part of this agenda. Each speaker is allowed 5 minutes. Members of the Housing Authority may question or respond to the speaker, but there will be no debate or decision. The matter may be referred to staff through the Executive Director for investigation and report.
I have one card. Robert Milano.
Good afternoon, members of the Housing Authority. My name is Herbert Milano, city staff. For quite some time now, I have been trying to put my arms around the city's budget and an understanding of how our city approaches the social problems, how it funds. Yes, please. I took some time during the Thanksgiving holiday to put some numbers together. And this is just a portion of the numbers that I obtained from the website using the data that's here on the budget summary. What I found difficulty during the times that I came to see the budget sessions is that oftentimes I got to see just a snapshot of the activity of the city. And even though during the long-term budget sessions, the long-term capital improvement budget sessions, I began to see a multi-year trend, I never really got to see a comparison, a direct comparison from one year to the next with regard to the objectives of the city, at least how we had, as they were represented in the budget. I figure the budget represents the objectives of what the city intends to do. And the next phase of what I intend to do with these numbers is really take a look at the statistics of the city and the outcomes and see if I can create a type of a sort of like performance evaluation based upon year to year how we're doing. When I do an analysis like this, I try to get a sense of how do we develop policy, and are the budgets that we create in line with the policy and the objectives that we create. The last document that I used that had some relative statistics with regard to population, it was created by the Community Development and Housing, and that was the Healthy Cities Report from, again, went back to 2001. And my presence here today is to encourage the city to fund the proper staffing for either the planning department or community development and housing, so that we can maintain current and up-to-date information on the social statistics of the city. The issues of high school dropouts, the issue of kids in gangs, families at risk, and so forth. Because it is my belief that once we are able to really look at a current, up-to-date set of demographic data about the city, that it will empower you to at least make decisions as to where you want the city to go based upon where we are today. If you take a look briefly at the third page, I didn't number them, unfortunately, where you have the Glendale salaries for 2000 to 2006, particular chart here, you will see quite a significant increase from the year 2000 to the year 2006 by the public safety salaries. And so I wonder, for example, if we have youth problems and if we have youth gangs, and if we have this significant increase in public safety, is it working? Right? Are we making headway? Are we having fewer gangs? Are we having fewer problems? Or are some of those resources being used for the purposes of prevention, for example? So that sometimes these budget statistics don't really tell us the whole story unless these budget figures do not tell us the whole story unless we have the statistics to go along with it. So I'm taking the time to do that, and I hope that that city departments will be cooperative with me as I try to ask some relevant questions and piece together what I think would be a relevant, true budget summary with performance objectives and outcomes. I would like to see, if at all possible, a report that gives us on a yearly basis a status of how we're doing with regard to families at risk, the families are at risk of losing their home, people who were evicted, so that we can at least say whether or not we're budgeting appropriately for community development and housing. Are we reaching the individuals that actually do need the assistance? And if not, what is the gap? And I think those are relevant questions that the authority would be interested in having. So I'm here basically to encourage you to hopefully move in that direction, to get the relevant statistics so that you can match the budget figures along with the policy objectives that you would like to create. Thank you.
Mr. Quintero.
I was at the homeowners coordinating council last night when Mr. Milano handed these out. I'd like to have some sort of staff analysis, whether it's Ron Haller's office, or get some idea of these graphs and what the story is in terms of employee salaries, transfers to the general fund, et cetera.
Mr. Starbird.
It's a bit difficult to do an analysis when you don't know the basis of the charts. That's why I was going to ask just a couple of questions, and that is, Mr. Milano, the chart references actual salaries adjusted for inflation. Where have you drawn salaries from? Is this the budget amount there for personnel costs?
From here.
Or is it individual salary rates?
No.
It's the amount of money budgeted for personnel costs.
Yes, salaries and benefits.
So as we look at the summary budget, there's personnel, then there's O&M, then there's capital. So you've taken the personnel component of the combined budgets.
That's correct. Let me give you an example here, one that has several. I believe the management office doesn't have it has it broken down a bit. And so, for example, the operating budget, I took salaries and benefits.
Salaries and benefits.
For each one of these, and basically combined.
Okay. So, for example, let's just take the fire department. In this comparison, then I presume you've taken the total personnel component, salaries and benefits of the fire department?
Precisely, so that it encompasses both not just the increase in salaries, but the increase in personnel as well. It's basically the total
I think
increase.
that's the key point. I think the reference can appear to be salary rates have gone up faster than inflation or population, but it doesn't account for changes in levels, amount of staffing, et cetera. For example, in the fire department, we added an entire paramedic program and a fifth paramedic unit, all of that probably accounting for in the neighborhood of close to 50 more personnel associated with those program changes and increases in services in this period of time, for which it was going to appear in the personnel component of the budget, but doesn't necessarily mean that salaries went up at this rate. It means that the cost of the personnel has gone up because we have more people. Now, that doesn't mean salaries haven't gone up. They have gone up. Salary rates have gone up. But salary rates is different than total amount of budget for salaries and personnel. So Mr. Quintero, to do an analysis, we kind of have to have a sense of what are these charts based on.
I knew that was the case with police, for sure, because I knew we hired quite a few more police officers.
Right. You've had probably close to 50 in this period of time. So in addition to salary rates going up and the cost of benefits going up, for example, we all know what happened with retirement rates just 5 years ago, and our rates went from 0, which was a bit of an anomaly, because if you go back far enough, once upon a time in safety, our rates were over 30% for retirement, and they dropped to almost 0, and then came back to more of a corrected level in the past 5 years. Well, that doesn't change the benefits, but that does drive up the costs. So that kind of perspective would be necessary, I think, if you're going to do an accurate comparison. That's why I asked the question.
Mr. Draymond.
I have on a slightly different point, but one related to, do we know, I'm sure someone knows, but I'd like to know, how many either low-income or affordable projects we turn down in a year that come forward from various sources?
Offers?
Yeah, where we opt not to.
Not to do an affordable project, affordable housing
Peter
project?
here, you want, ready to stand up?
Peter is ready to launch himself to the podium.
It's a hard number to calculate. It depends on at what level you would turn down a project. There are a couple of projects I can think of that have been presented to the Housing Authority and at that level have been turned down. There are other projects that never get past the point of initial discussions with the developer in the offices over community development and housing, in which the developer walks away with the information and never comes back.
I'm specifically talking about projects where we as a city make some determination at some level and say no in the course of, say, the last year, maybe.
I think for the most part, the projects that have been presented to the authority have been approved.
So then the idea that by looking at some statistic and saying that we should be doing more, how would we be doing more if we're not turning any down?
Short
See what
answer,
I'm saying?
because we already have poor communications.
I was sitting in the audience listening to that, and I was thinking to myself, if we've spent all of our funding, or nearly all of our affordable housing funds on projects, it's hard to say that we're not doing something. I think it's, as I've said to a number of people, we've been the busiest in the last 2 years that I've ever seen in terms of projects.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Peter.
Oh, I don't need to throw it at Peter. Okay, we're done with oral communications.
Sure, you can run the meeting with that.
I can run the whole meeting with it? Yep. No more words, Mr. Quintero. Okay, oral communication closed. What's next?
Is there any authority member or staff comments?
Seeing none?
Well, I do. Well, let me ask on that question that Mr. Draymond brought up. I mean, we have a pool of funds for which...
You gave it to him.
Mr. Zobek. Do you want me back up? Yeah. I'm afraid of Mr. Draymond.
He's the mayor.
We get a lot of proposals for projects, and the city has a pool of funds, our 20% set aside from redevelopment, et cetera, that we use to leverage the projects with the developers. Correct?
Correct.
And we're pretty good at expending most, if not all, of those funds, don't we, on a year-to-year basis?
Within the last 3 years, we've done a very good job of
So I think that's the
funding to
critical, not so much how many do we turn down, but are we working at full capacity in our...
Not full, but as
are working at
full as
high
we can.
capacity
High
in
capacity.
terms of our commitment towards creating affordable housing.
And I would say yes,
And
we
let's
are.
put it in perspective, compare that to other cities. From what I recall, we're doing far better than a lot of other cities.
Correct.
Yeah, better in a city of industry.
To give you a little bit of perspective on that, I just attended a meeting this last Thursday in San Francisco that had representatives of the largest redevelopment and housing agencies in the state of California: San Jose, San Francisco, Los Angeles, Sacramento, San Diego. Currently outstanding in low moderate income housing funds in the state, there's $1.5 billion of unspent 20% set aside.
Billion?
$1.5 billion in unspent low-mod income housing set aside.
Can we get some?
Glendale is zero. All of our money is committed at this point. In fact, we're a little over-committed. We've got stuff we...
Why can't we get more than if that money's...
Well, you can't. Let me finish.
Well, that was
if I
my
can.
attempt at humor about the city of industry reference, because they are notorious in not spending their funds, and their funds are...
Well, industry is a unique redevelopment agency. They got special legislation that gave them the ability to give away their housing funds because, frankly, they don't want any more residents. They want to maintain the very small number they have. So they give their money to Los Angeles County, and Glendale is within a sphere that we've been successful in getting pieces of their money for our projects. ADI's projects are an example. Two is the state monitors very closely the use of low-mod income housing funds by redevelopment agencies and housing authorities. You have essentially 5 years under the law to utilize your low-mod income housing money, and there are some cities that, frankly, don't spend it even in that time frame, and there's questions about, so what happens? Glendale 5 years ago, because of the time it was taking us to manage projects, we had built up about $12 million. Today, you won't find Glendale on the list of the top agencies. I say top agencies, those agencies that are watched by the state for not spending low moderate income housing funds. The other issue that we discussed was a problem that we face. The cost of subsidizing affordable housing is going through the roof because of the cost of construction, the cost of land. Even though we think housing is down, affordable housing is very, very, very expensive, especially in urban centers, to develop. So an agency like Glendale, where we try to keep our costs below $200,000 a unit, what you find statewide is because of the rising cost of subsidizing affordable housing, the number of units is dropping statewide. My guess is if you compare Glendale with other communities throughout the state, we do very, very well in getting our low moderate income housing money out to work, and we do a very, very good job of leveraging our money so we can keep our subsidies at a level that we can get the most units for the amount of money that we have to spend.
Boy, we're really getting a discussion here. Should we agendize this or something?
No, I just wanted to...
Yeah, go ahead, Mr.
Ara really picked up the other aspect of that question. I was really speaking to the one of the comments made by the speaker. I wasn't trying to put Peter on the spot. It's just that when you talk about measurable results, and really that's the underlying theme to what Mr. Milano is talking about. You're looking at statistics to help you determine how you should be allocating funds. He was speaking about our budget as it related to housing. And the point I was trying to make is that measurable results are fine, but you also have to understand what your capacity is.
Constraints, et cetera.
So if you're doing all that you can do, we're not turning down projects, and we're spending our available funds, even if the statistics say we should be spending more and doing more projects, if there aren't more projects and we've spent our capacity to do it, then what? What is the answer? That's what I was trying to get
Understood. There are constraints, too. Okay, thank you, Peter. There's no further council comments. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Stand adjourned at 3:28 p.m. Mr. City Clerk? Yes. Mr. Mayor? This is on.